the two things I want you to think about is obviously the environment means everything that is around us. So that means everything that is around you and your children. So everything that is part of their environment, from their the spaces where they sleep, or eat, or play, or the places where you go, the places you travel to, maybe everything in their environment that they're interacting with, pretty much the world around them, right? Now, all of that is their environment. And of course, their environment is going to be as big as you make their environment. You have the choice to keep their environment constrained, or you have the choice to expand it, and you can go as far as possible. In this picture, this is Australia. We went on a road trip in the southern part of Australia. And so I purposely put that picture to say that you can go as far as you can imagine, right? That's the furthest we have gone, perhaps, right? So the environment that the children are going to interact with starts from their bedroom, starts from their kitchen, So it starts with everything that they are able to access. Now you can shrink back, scale it back, don't go to Australia, come back and think about the kitchen. Like, is your kitchen even accessible to your children? Right? Like, when we think about access, it doesn't have to be so big and far and wide. It can be even within your home. Or is everything off limits in your house? Like, are there spaces in your home that invite the children to interact with it? Like, and this is a question I'm asking myself, because I'm like literally starting all over again. At one point, my house was really child friendly. And then I had these big boys who were self sufficient, right? And my house started to look more and more like, I want to say, prettier than it used to when they were younger, right? Like, there were more and more stuff that was like, okay, this is good to have, this is good to have. And then when we had Khadija, it was like, oh my God, we can't have these plants with all this soil, because, she would just throw it out. Or we should be okay with her throwing it out, right? We should be like rethinking this whole design of the house now, because is this okay with us? And what is this communicating to my child? Like, can she come and interact with this? Or she's constantly frustrated. She's stuck with all these giants walking around her, right? And nothing is accessible. She has to depend on us. Or is it inviting her? Is it saying it's okay to interact? It's okay to take this and put this, and so on and so forth, right? So, an inviting environment could be just a drawer in your kitchen that is at a lower height, that you have left accessible to your child, that she knows she can open, and she can get her cups or her stuff, right? Is there something like that in your house? Does she have a space in the house where she feels that she can take something and start working with it? Like, imagine simple things like your printer paper. Like, when my boys were younger, we had this big it was a cardboard, those file keeping things, like where you put papers, like printer paper, different colored paper. So I had this long cardboard stand, which had these cardboard shelves, so not very like robust or expensive or anything, very simple. There was printer paper there was colored paper there. And I really believe in the power of like blank paper, um, because then my kids have like this free reign, right? Like, they can imagine whatever they want, like. And also because I tried giving them prompts and printables and stuff, and it was always restrictive, and they enjoyed the free exploration. And I also concluded that the learning is far superior when you give them the blank paper as against, you know, here's your writing prompt, or here's your coloring page and stuff like that, right? So yeah, lots of plain paper supplies that is at the child's height, that the child knows that I can take it. There's probably child size furniture where they can sit and draw and color, right? So is there something like that in your environment that invites them? So the point is, their environment is what you allow for them, what you open up for them. So the first thing I want you to keep in mind is when it comes to environment, the first thing to keep in mind is that you get to unlock the spaces for them and you get to gatekeep the spaces, right? And you are the designer of their environment. You are the curator of the environment. It is very much in your domain. It's very much in your capacity to decide what you're going to expand and what you're going to restrict. So if you are someone who struggles with, the child making a mess, right? Or let's say, certain things like really trigger you. I want you to know that it is not wrong to gatekeep some spaces for your sanity's sake, but then you want to open up a different space for them, right? I'll give an example. Like I, at one point, realized that I don't necessarily like a lot of artwork happening in the house. I don't like the cleanup. I don't like the mess. So for art specifically, anything that was, you know, artsy stuff, I started to optimize and, plan and look ahead of time if there is an art program going on outside somewhere near me, or is there a library program where I can take them, where there's, hands-on stuff happening, or can I take them to the museum where, in Pittsburgh where I lived, the museum had this huge art section, with all these easels and supplies, and it was very, very beautiful, mashallah. So, I can take them there. So you don't have to do it in your house. You can have some fixed spaces within the house that they'll need on a daily basis. So those you cannot gatekeep. But then there can be some things that can happen outside. Another example, like have a sandbox outside the house. If you don't like those sensory bins and all that stuff in the house, don't do it. You can do it outside the house. Keep a sandbox outside the house. Keep those things outside the house, right? Like for water table, I realized that I would rather just have them play in the bathtub. Like I'll just get a few toys, they'll sit in the bathtub, but they can do that stuff in the bathtub. Easy hacks. That's why I'm giving you the map, because once you have the map, you can pick and choose. You're going to save so much on unnecessary spending, first of all, because we buy all these things because they are sold as this is what you need for this is what you need for that. No, you don't need a water table. You can use your bathtub, right? You don't need to get invest so much in those sensory bins and whatnot, because then who has to clean up? You have to clean up, right? If the more you accumulate, the more you have to do it. You can get some of these things from the environment outside your home. That's why the picture of Australia, right? Like we travel because I like to use the outside environment. I go on road trips so that I use the ranger-led programs in these, at these national parks, and use the travel as a way to reduce my stress levels. It's good for me. It's good for their learning, because I want to, like, it's part of my job description to provide an enriching environment, right? But it doesn't have to happen inside the house, right? So hopefully this takes some of the pressure off in setting up the perfectly curated environment in your house, right? The second thing I want you to think about when it comes to raising and educating your children, you are the biggest part of their environment. Like you're not just the curator of this environment, you are the most important part of their environment. Okay? So you can have all the amazing setup and activities and all of that, but if you are not showing up as this person that they need in order to develop and flourish and learn and thrive, all of that falls flat. Like I can go to these most exotic places where there is so much opportunity to learn, right? But if I'm miserable, my kids are going to be miserable, right? If I set up the most amazing environment in the house, but then I am like so volatile, right? Like I'm so easily triggered, I'm so frustrated, right? And this is something that I had to confront within myself very early on when I started homeschooling. Like, I would spend so much energy in setting up these activities, these lab books or whatever was trending, right? Like, I would do all the work, and then that would leave me so drained that when it came to actually interacting with my child, listening to my child, like getting attuned with my child, I had no energy. I was so busy thinking, like, why isn't he doing that? Why isn't he using this thing? Like, why isn't he benefiting from this? Right? Because I was not mindful of my energy. If I recognize that I am the biggest, like, I am the environment to begin with, I would start with rationing some of the energy and time for myself. I would invest in self care properly. I would invest in my health and my well being and be mindful of how I'm curating the environment. Like, I would keep the big picture in mind, right? Because without that, what happens? You have the perfect Montessori, and I had a Montessori in my house. Trust me, this is all lived experience, right? But I had little energy to give my child. And all that investment in setting up the environment made me attach to what that environment could do for my child. So it made me almost like unnaturally, like, expect my child to respond to things a certain way, right? Because I put in so much work, like, you know. So be mindful of that you are the most important part of this environment, and that's why your energy, the way you show up, the way you interact with the kids, the way you attune with them, the eye contact, the way you're seen, the way you see them, and I'm going to elaborate on all these things in a bit. All of that is something that you have to ration for, allocate time and energy and resources for. Okay? So the resources are not just the books that you buy, the activities that you buy. The resources are also things that you do for your self-care. So if you need therapy, that's a resource. That's what you invest in. If you need some time to learn, you need to read books, allocate time for that. If you need to be with the people, with other moms, so that you get some downtime, you get some time to decompress, invest in that. If you need to be in this group, this collective, and spend time on the circle community to come in, log in, learn, keep doing that, allocate time for that, right? If you need to go for a walk, like, I have needed walks all throughout my homeschooling. Like, I can literally pinpoint the times when I was not walking and how it was correlating with how snappy I get, you know because the walks would make me remember that, okay, I'm the world is very big and I'm just a very small part of this world. My problems are not so big, like because it gets intense otherwise, right? So all of that is something that you allocate time and energy and resources for. Okay? So when I ask you to make a resource list, I want you to put these two columns, right? The environment, as in really the environment, and then you. And you'll see when we get to the needs part of the session, when we cover the needs of children, how much of that begins with you again, right? So inshallah, we'll get to that. But you have to be mindful of how you are doing, how you are showing up.